The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
Luka Doncic and a buzzer-beating tip-in from LeBron James give the Lakers a 120-119 win over Indiana.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
Got 34 from Luka Doncic. They got a buzzer-beating tip-in from LeBron James, 24 from Austin Reeves. When things looked good in this game, they looked really good, and when they didn't, they looked really awful. But in the end, Andy, this feels like at least it's one of those wins that has a potential kind of lift some weight off of a team that I think was carrying a little.
The things that need to be fixed still are in need of fixing. This was not a game where the Lakers looked entirely like themselves, but they looked a lot more like themselves more often in this game.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but also in critical moments, like down the stretch, the offense operated really well.
Yeah, there were definitely some good moments offensively, a couple really big threes from Rui, who ended up getting the start in this game. That looks like it's going to be the case moving forward. We had talked about how we suspected at least that until Rui was able to play enough minutes that JJ felt like I can start him without having to screw with the rotation too much. He was going to be put in there, and that was the case. He didn't get a lot of shots in this game. Would still like him to get more, but the ones that he got, he mostly made, and they were really big. But like, you look at 119 for the Pacers and a couple quarters that were shaky defensively. It is important to remember the Pacers are one of the best offensive teams in the league. They average almost 117 points for the season. Since the All-Star break, they're averaging 118 points a game. They shoot 49% from the field for the season, about 37% from behind the arc. They get to the line. And because Tyrese Halliburton is so good taking care of the ball and has it in his hands all the time, and his backup, TJ McConnell, also doesn't turn the ball over, they're a team that you don't have many opportunities to capitalize on mistakes and get out in transition. Like the Lakers did find some opportunities to run, but I don't want to excuse some of the breakdowns because there were some that frankly, you're going to go through the film session and be like, bro, can't have that happen again. But this is not a team that you should look to hold to 105 points or else the defense sucked.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, we can get into some of the individual elements of the team and how they played and all that over the course of it, because I think, like you said, the defense had moments where, especially when they were able to get into the half court and kind of settled, I think for the most part, it looked pretty good. Certainly JJ Redick, that's one of the things he talked about after the game. The offense, I thought there were a lot of things to like, but I mentioned in the open, like, this was just a weird game. You had LeBron James entering the fourth quarter, sitting on 3 points. That does not happen often. The guy has scored 10 points or more every game since 2007.
Sitting not just on 3 points, but 0 field goals. Like, I don't know.
6.
Yeah, I don't know for sure if that is the longest LeBron's ever gone in a game without a basket, but if it's not, it's got to be pretty damn close. Like,
I mean, I don't know how much farther you can go.
This does not happen to LeBron particularly often. We'll get into some of the specifics too. This was also a game from LeBron, and he gets the game-winning tip in, just barely beating the buzzer of a missed floater by Luka. And by the way, this Wednesday, between announcing his revamped Mind the Game podcast now with Steve Nash, absolutely owning the news cycle after an hour-ish sit down with Pat McAfee. Very entertaining sit down, by the way.
He got Stephen A. riled up. Good
Stephen
Lord.
I thought McAfee actually did a really good job.
It was a good interview.
A really good interview. And then this game-winning tip in. Really nice little Wednesday for LeBron. Yeah. But we'll get into this. I loved this game from LeBron. Not just the tip-in. Obviously, the tip-in was amazing. But I love this game from LeBron.
I'm glad you brought, like, we spent, and before everyone gets upset, I am not trying to draw an equivalence in terms of the importance, in terms of the whatever. One of the things about sort of the legendary Game 7 with Kobe and the Celtics is, as bad as he was shooting the ball in that game, Kobe was a train wreck in so many ways. Did so many other things to contribute to winning. And LeBron, aside from the low point total and the inefficiency from the offense, he was not struggling in quite the same way, but he was phenomenal on the glass. He was, I think, consistently the best defender the Lakers had on the floor. And he talked after the game, continuing to find ways to impact how to win. This is a lot of the sort of the platitudes you expect from LeBron in terms of, this is how my game is. And he's stuff he said a million times. And I'm able to contribute even when I'm not scoring. And that there are other guys who can do that, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. Except A, it's true. And B, it mattered in this game significantly. They don't win if he doesn't do all the other stuff. And I also think it's really, it's something to notice and something to kind of hang your hat on a little bit. It's like, yeah, we're in this game, probably should have been up by more. If you're the Lakers, you're thinking this with LeBron sitting on 3 points in the fourth quarter. Like it shows that they can come up with ways to win, and they can stay in games, and they can compete and do all that stuff without having to lean on LeBron as a scorer. They're going to need it. Most games he's going to be able to do that stuff and still have 17 heading into the fourth. I'm not saying 3 points from LeBron after three quarters is ideal. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff you can look back on if you're the Lakers and say, wow, that's good. In terms of not having to rely on his scoring.
Well, it also just, this was a display of why LeBron, beyond being one of the greatest players of all time, in the conversation on the very short list of greatest of all times, is one of the reasons why he's one of the most versatile and well-rounded players of all time. Because like you mentioned, going into the fourth quarter, he had a near double-double with rebounds and assists. I want to say he was sitting on 7 apiece for both. Yeah, but somewhere in that range.
At least I think he had the 7 assists, and I think he was at like 8 or 9, 7 or 8 or 9, but like it was close. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in that range. So he's looking at a potential double-double heading into the fourth, despite having only 3 points. And we mentioned the defense that he played that was often just terrific in this game. And as we've talked about before, LeBron's defensive engagement very often sets the tone for the rest of this team. It often his communication. And LeBron actually talked about after the Orlando loss or a practice in Indiana, just part of getting his conditioning back is actually the ability to keep talking defensively. Like, it's the same way, like it's difficult for singers who do a 2.5-hour concert. And also, if they happen to do choreography or whatever, like that requires conditioning. That is hard to do with vocalizing. But another piece of this that I loved with LeBron, 0 turnovers after 3 quarters. He didn't get his first turnover into the fourth quarter.
There you go.
He dribbled the ball off his leg. It was his only turnover of the game. But like things like that help offset a night where you're not scoring, but you have so much control over the game. Again, like this is not a night that in the grand scheme of things, other than the game winner, I think people are going to remember over the course of LeBron's career. But I really loved the game that he had tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And it was coupled with, obviously the attention. LeBron had a great start to the fourth quarter. He was integral in pushing the Lakers at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Obviously had the huge tip in at the end off the Luka miss, but it is worth talking both about the way that Luka, 34 points, big contributor to the win on Wednesday night.
Opening day in Major League Baseball. That's today. The best way to get down to the park is Game Time. All baseball season long, you can snag great deals on good seats. The closer it gets to first pitch, plus Game Time shows you your view from your seat before you buy. The way you won't get stuck behind a column and miss half the game. I can't recommend Game Time enough. They show you the all-in price on each ticket. That way you know exactly what you're paying without the surprise fees. You'll even have peace of mind with Game Time because they have event cancellation protection and even job loss assurance, so I can buy with confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. The last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
The Nuggets get right as Joker returns.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
The Denver Nuggets over the Milwaukee Bucks as they get the win versus Milwaukee to split the season series 127-117. Ryan and I disagree on this. I think that if Giannis Antetokounmpo plays, the Bucks win this game. He thinks that if Giannis plays, the Nuggets still win this game because of the history of the back and forth between the two teams.
Yeah, it's something that I've noticed between these two. The Denver is never very ready for Giannis initially in these matchups, and then they find a way. If Aaron was in foul trouble again the entire time, then yeah, they probably lose. There's no doubt about it. But I think Aaron got caught a little bit, matched up in some awkward situations, and he was clearly out of rhythm tonight, and that sucked. But it was still great to have Nikola Jokic back, Matt. It's funny. We talk a lot, we criticize a lot, we try to evaluate as often as we can and as positive and negative and like objective of a way that we possibly can about Nikola Jokic. And yet just watching him be back in the building and playing basketball and dominating in the unique way that he does, it was very enjoyable.
Yep, big fella just comes back and goes right back to work as he plays 38 minutes. 39 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, sets a record for most triple-doubles in a season by Nugget, which he broke his own record of doing so. Plus 14 on the night, 3 of 6 from 3, 4 of 7 from the line, and 16 of 25 from the field overall. 3 turnovers.
Think about that for a second. Like 16 of 25 against Brook Lopez. And I know that Giannis isn't behind them to kind of affect some of the shots tangentially, but like Brook Lopez is a really good defender. He's also 7'2". He's huge. And he had some great defensive possessions against Jokic tonight. And it didn't matter. Like he was so good. And the pass that he had, the bing bop pass to Murray gets him on the roll, and then he flips the ball over his shoulder two-handed to a cutting Aaron Gordon for a dunk. It was so smooth. It was so awesome. And there's exactly maybe 2 people in the world that can make that pass in that way. One of them is Jokic, and actually one of them is Alperen Şengün. That's one thing that he does.
I'm looking at the history of the battles between these two teams. It does not support your theory that they would in terms of losing the first one and then winning the second one. It's pretty split.
What does it support?
It's pretty random. So like January 2024, they win at home. They lose the one on the road. The 2023, and so from 2022 to 2023, they did that. They did follow your pattern. But other than that, it's all like
okay. Well, this is the world of Ryan, where Ryan thinks that he knows the stats really well and has decided that is objective fact at this point. So that's what happens.
One of the things that I love doing is I will get a stat in my head and parrot it 17 times, and then it'll change. And I just keep parroting it. I just keep talking about it like it's actually a real thing. I mean, look, Joker, I thought Brook is a great defender, and Joker absolutely just took it to him. They had it, they forced a lot of switches and got him on small stuff like late in the game. Poor AJ Green was on him. Joker had tonight, he catches the ball at the free throw line and he posts and he starts to turn. He doesn't even turn. It's not like he turns and then pauses and then flips. As he's turning, he 2-arm underhand flips it over his shoulder to Aaron Gordon. And it's just not a play that you're just going to see again in the NBA for a long time. Like, it's just not. Like, there's a lot of amazing plays that happen every single night in the league. It's one of the things that, for all of the ways that it can wear me down, like, you watch these plays and you're just like, God, these guys are so good at basketball. Yeah. And like that play is just singularly Jokic. Like, that's nobody else does that. Nobody else makes that play.
Except Alperen Şengün. That's the only one I could think of.
I was listening to you. That was what you're referring to in Şengün. When did Şengün make that play?
Wait, say it again. Sorry.
When did Şengün make that play? Tell me about this.
It's just something that he does. It's not necessarily the shuffle, like the shove, like two-handed. It's just the creativity that he has on the short roll in terms of being able to take advantage of being in a 4-on-3 situation and finding that short roller in the short corner on a consistent basis. And he does it in very creative ways. Maybe not that exact one, but he does it in like, he's learned a lot from Jokic in terms of watching how he has delivered that pass in as awesome of a way as he possibly can.
I'll throw Demonis on there. I think Demonis can make that play. Demonis is pretty good. Demonis is like 7 times better than Şengün, and Şengün needs to try and be Demonis and not Jokic. We're all over the place because it's late because Joker took forever. So did you come away encouraged by this game?
No, I thought that this was the same old. Jokic played great. He played 38 minutes. Murray was inconsistent this one. Porter shot well. Like, that was good to see. He got wide open shots for the most part and made them pay this time. And it's good to see him kind of get back out there and get on that horse. It was nice to see Christian Braun play the way that he did. He had 19, 10, and 6 with 2 steals. He was shooting the passing lanes a little bit more in this game. And I noticed that. That's something that I think of when I think of KCP, as somebody who reads and understands when an offense is getting a little bit lazy and then takes advantage of it. Christian got one of those. And then Peyton Watson did step up in a way. Like 34 minutes, 12, 7, 2 with 3 blocks off the bench in 34 minutes and was a team-leading plus 15. So some encouraging things. Not going to sit here and say that there weren't any, but it still was 117 points given up.
The blocks were very loud for Peyton, and I liked him closing in the dunker spot in 2-man game. He got that wide open dunk in the AG spot. Like, it was just really good to see Peyton getting reps in that kind of situation. So I thought that was really good.
Opening day in Major League Baseball. That's today. The best way to get down to the park is Game Time. All baseball season long, you can snag great deals on good seats. The closer it gets to first pitch, plus Game Time shows you your view from your seat before you buy. The way you won't get stuck behind a column and miss half the game. I can't recommend Game Time enough. They show you the all-in price on each ticket. That way you know exactly what you're paying without the surprise fees. You'll even have peace of mind with Game Time because they have event cancellation protection and even job loss assurance. So I can buy with confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. The last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
The LA Clippers come from behind to beat a Jalen Brunson-less Knicks team at MSG.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast.
It was a gritty game. It was a little bit of a slugfest for a lot of it, but the Clippers come out on top. And I'm going to tell you why every single game we have a chance to win with this team. Every single game. That's not the same as every single series, but every single game. So maybe you can say that each game is different. Maybe that means you can win a series. I just don't know if we're better than certain teams 4 out of 7 times, but this applies to some other teams as well. But for us, I'm going to talk about why we do such a great job of staying in every game. And then Kawhi watch is not just Kawhi watch tonight. It's Kawhi God mode. Kawhi is back. Kawhi was making Clyde Frazier and Mike Breen go absolutely berserk. And then the Harden heater. How about a little bit of Zoo, a little bit of Nico, a little bit of everything. Clipper Nation. We are looking pretty good. Norman Powell played again. James Harden somehow started. I mean, are you kidding me with this guy? He is playing at a level in which he wants to put on for the fans, and I really appreciate that. But this whole team, there's a reason we stay in every game. We have a level of defensive resilience that we might have a bad defensive quarter. We might even have a bad defensive half. We rarely, though, have bad defensive games. Rarely. And that's why we've had so few blowouts this season. It feels like we're really in every game. Defense will keep you in games. I tell this to teams that I coach because it applies to every level. Defense will keep you in games. It allows time for your offense to get into the game. Now, against certain teams that have the perfect combination, you might not have that luxury if your offense doesn't catch up. But just from my estimation, just off tops, 80% of the time, if you have a defense that's good and can consistently be good, you will have chances to win games. You will have chances. And the Clipper defense consistently gives the offense chances to win games. We often lose because of our offense. It's rarely, and there have been very few games this season where we've just not even come out to play. Very few. That game against the Nuggets that was during the fires and stuff, that was nonsense. We shouldn't even have had to play that game. But off the top of my head, especially because this year has been kind of a blur for me, I can't even think of games this season where we just didn't even flat out try. There's been so many more of those games in the 2-1-3 era. But the reason for that is because we have guys that want to guard. When it's in your skill set, when you look at Chris Dunn or Derrick Jones Jr. or even a Nico, and you put their skill sets and you list their skill set on a paper, the different skills for them, defense is one of those. That is something, and there is a technique to it. There is Chris Dunn's ability to move laterally, Nico Batum's ability, just his long arms, right? His athleticism and his defensive IQ. But it's also that want to. And guys that are great defenders, it's because they're not lazy on that end of the floor. They don't take possessions off. They're engaged in what the scheme is, and they don't just watch loose balls. They attack them and stuff like that. And we have a lot of guys like that this season. And that has been, honestly, you got to give the front office some credit there with the Derrick Jones Jr.'s and the Nico and the Chris Dunns. But we were not great defensively in that first half. We weren't. You know what I'm saying? In terms of scheme, we started with Harden on Mikal Bridges, Zoo on Josh Hart. Same thing we did when they came to Intuit is we had Zoo on Josh Hart because we want to be able to switch pick and rolls and not have them put Zoo in the pick and pop with Cat. Now, granted, it's not nearly as lethal when you don't have Jalen Brunson as the ball handler, but let's say you have Campaign in this pick and pop with Cat, which is what they want, which is what they were trying to run. You want to be able to switch that to not give Karl Anthony Towns that wide open pick and pop, because what Zoo does is he plays drop coverage, which leaves the centers open for threes, which is why he struggles against certain pick and pop bigs. So to counter that, our coaching staff is going with Zoo guarding Josh Hart. So then you make Josh Hart the screener with Zoo in drop coverage, and you concede the open three to him. But what you do concede with that, and who we started on Cat was Kawhi. And then Chris Dunn on OG and Norm on Payne. It was usually Chris Dunn on Payne and then Norm on OG. But also, those two would switch back and forth. And then on their side, they had Josh Hart on Kawhi, OG on Harden, Campaign on Chris Dunn, Cat on Zoo, Bridges on Norm. Cat was playing drop coverage for them. But overall, just going back to our defensive side of things, I don't think we were great defensively in the first quarter. They were scoring and they were hitting at a high clip. And Cat was still getting buckets, whether it be on mismatches or catching the ball closer to the basket. And I'm usually very critical of him for catching the ball too far from the basket, making it easy for our defense. Cat was really the only guy that they could rely on to say, go create a bucket for us without Brunson. And I think that's something that's a little bit of a flaw in this Knicks offense. They scored 33 points in the first quarter to our 20. And I mainly think, I mean, we started out extremely cold, but a lot of it is when we weren't getting stops, we weren't able to set our defense. And I'm sorry, when we weren't able to get stops, it was letting their defense set. And I was watching on the MSG broadcast because I can't airplay. For some reason, you can't airplay the FanDuel Sports thing off your computer onto the TV. I got to just download the app. But the app can get wonky sometimes with FanDuel Sports Network. Anyway, I was watching on the MSG broadcast, and they kept talking about how the Clippers had no ball movement in that first quarter. No ball movement. And when we weren't getting stops, it was allowing their defense to set, and it would just become Kawhi or James Harden, ISO or pick and roll. And it was very slow, very stagnant. So we were down 13 after one, trailed by as many as 14 in the game. But we won every quarter after that. 34-22 in the second, 40-29 in the third, and 32-29 in the fourth. And I believe it really starts with the defense. You know, in the second half, we came out with, we had patches of it in the second quarter. You know, we only allowed 22 points, and we ended the quarter very well. It actually didn't feel like a great quarter, but then Harden had 5 points to end the half after he had a pretty rough first half for the most part, had some rough isolations where he either didn't get calls or just missed shots after a lot of dribbling. But defensively, we made an adjustment where we were doubling Cat in the second half because we were like, they don't really have anyone else that can create. So as long as we double and just rotate hard, let's make him make the cross-court pass. Let's let those other guys make plays. And I thought there were some really good moments of Chris Dunn anticipating where the pass would go. We took away that one pass. We took away the closest pass. The one pass away option, we took away with that double team. You know, the rotation was sharp. The doubles were hard. And that really just flustered them. And then we started scoring and allowing our defense to set. Basketball is really a simple game. You start hitting shots, you allow your defense to set, you get momentum behind you, you play better. You get stops, get your offense in transition. One thing leads to the other. It's just a sequence of things. And the Clippers, defensively, we always find a way that even if we're not great, you know, in that first half tonight, mainly that first quarter, you know, we're only down 1 point at half. And it felt like we were down the entire first half. But because we weren't getting enough points in the paint either. We were just not getting anything easy. Starts with our best players, in my opinion, there. But when we were able to get stops, we were able to get cross matches in transition. We were able to get some pep in our steps, some momentum behind us against a defense on their heels. And then Kawhi, James, these guys start to score. But for me, what I just admire about our team this season is that even if we're playing horribly offensively, even if we have a bad quarter or two defensively, we're going to turn it up at some point. And you're going to see the Chris Dunns of the world, the Derrick Jones Jr.'s of the world. And now with Kawhi back, he's also a guy with a defense-first attitude. You know, put some pressure, and then you got Zubats behind you, and then it gives us momentum. All you need is a little magic from James, Kawhi, Norm, or Zoo, or both, or more, and then you've got something going.